Hello and welcome. My name is Catherine Walters, and I'm the host of the Joyful You Summit. I'm an intuitive healer and joy coach, and in my business, Guided Change, I help people who are stressed and overwhelmed experience more joy and happiness in their lives. Now, I'm so excited because I've gathered together 22 fabulous experts who are going to help you create more positive, energetic lifestyle full of happiness, fun, play, and joy. And joining me today is Anthony Trucks. And I'm so delighted to have Anthony here because he is a former player in the NFL. He built and ran his own business for a number of years, and now he's an entrepreneur coach. So Anthony inspires people to have what he refers to as a second act, which I love. I think it's fabulous because many people do start over. It's not just, we do one thing and then another. And obviously, Anthony, you've done a number of different things. And so he's going to share his tips and tools that help him to stay positive and energized and happy every day. So welcome, Anthony, and thank you so much for being here on the Joyful Youth Telesummit, and also for sharing your expertise. So, just welcome. It's a delight to have you here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here as well.
Awesome. So, Anthony, when we read about you, you have just an amazing story. So how did you get into, would you share that with us? So how did you go from, your lifestyle so that now you are, filled with happiness and joy?
There's a lot of things. It's odd. The last, maybe almost a year, it's been where I really got to this place of, I say, guilty happy.
Oh.
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I feel like I'm living in a place where every day I wake up and I'm incredibly at peace and thankful and grateful for what I have. But it didn't always start that way at all. I work with entrepreneurs. So it's pretty much, my heart is there. And most people are like, well, why? And so I just eventually started kind of getting a good clarity on it. And so for me, I started as an entrepreneur at 3 years old. And it's more of a feeling thing. My first memory of life is my mom calling me from my household, which is my apartment. And I live in the Northern California Bay Area. And she basically calls me out back. She's crying. She leans down, gives me a kiss, and hands my hand to a woman I've never met before. And she walks me out to this black Crown Victoria. I get in the car. My 3 siblings are behind me crying. And the car starts up. We drive away. And so this was me being put in foster care by my mom. And so my first memory of life is kind of feeling unworthy, unloved, feeling I don't know what tomorrow brings. I don't have the tools for this. I don't know what's going on. I'm lost. I'm pretty much on an island and isolated.
Right.
It's the very first feeling an entrepreneur feels, the feeling of okay, well, my mom pushed me into this, but our hearts as entrepreneurs push us into that space. So you feel like you're isolated, you're on an island. You don't know what tomorrow brings. You're just kind of wandering, right? You're lost.
That's the story.
That's how it begins. And then for a lot of years, I dealt with a lot of craziness from beatings and starvation and torture and foster cares. At the time, I was a paycheck. As long as I didn't die, everything was okay. And they treated me. Got to a point where after 3 years, I finally ended up in my home, which is my family now. I was with them for 8 years and dealt with a lot of different ups and downs with my biological mom and my adoptive family and just all the craziness. But I was finally adopted at 14 when I severed my mom's parental rights by standing up in court and saying, I no longer want you to be my mom anymore. And it severed her rights. I got adopted. And I played football. I did obviously play in the NFL, but I got to play football for the first time. And for me, it was this really, really great, peaceful feeling of I mattered for the first time. I actually mattered, I was worthy. And I could hit people. Hitting people was fun. I didn't mind that. But after 2 years of football, I had some high times. I had some really low times. I was doing really poorly at football. And this is where kind of that second feeling of an entrepreneur comes in, the people I work with. And honestly, anybody in life. This is not just a person who's a business owner. This is just everybody.
It's everybody, really.
It's the feeling of my mom had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, my adoptive mom. My brother went to the military, who was my rock. I was doing poorly in football. So something I loved, which was football, I was about to chalk up. I was like, you know what, I'm done dealing with this. I can't do it. I'm not supposed to. Statistically, I found out recently that if you had any prison in America, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids. And 2% ever actually graduate from college.
Right.
So my odds are slim. I'm well, this is the normalcy for me. And I was sitting in a class and a girl was sitting to the right of me in the class. I had a black parka over my head. I was eating Cinnamon Toast Crunch out of a baggie because that's just how I did my days. My grades were tanking. And I hear this girl say to somebody next to her, well, the reason I'm so bad is because I'm in foster care.
Oh.
Really powerful, like, gosh, I never want to sound like that. And for me, went home that night, sat at the corner of my bed, and I was staring at this wall like, you know what, I want to be great. And I worked that off season harder than I've ever worked. I was always catching a football, doing push-ups, running routes, like just getting in great shape. And I came back the next year, and I was so much better. I got moved up to varsity from a sophomore.
Wow.
Got a football scholarship, played in the NFL, open businesses, like all that stuff I've been able to do since then. And what I learned was that's where a lot of people get to that point of like, you have a dream to chase, or you're in a place right now where you're doing something you used to love, but all of a sudden, like, you're about to chalk it up. You know, like, I'm gonna let the dream die. I'm just gonna settle for what I got. Like, I'm not gonna live happy and abundant and joyous. And the reason that we do that is because it's tough to move forward because we don't always trust ourselves.
Right.
And the concept that I live with now is the concept of trust your hustle. Any dream that we want, anything you want to have come to fruition for your life comes on the backside of work or hustle. And if you don't trust in your abilities to make that happen, you won't put the work in the first place. And so I'm all about now teaching people how to trust your hustle. And that's essentially what ventured me into this world I'm in now, which is that how did I get to this happy place is years later after leaving the NFL, I opened a gym, ran that for 6 years, was very successful. You know, was making six figures, traveling the world and speaking, was in a best-selling book featured like the Wall Street Journal, these articles behind me. Like, I did really well in the fitness industry.
Sure. But
it wasn't fulfilling. I became a consultant. I started consulting for a multi-billion-dollar company, making six figures, and still wasn't fulfilling. And I was like, it's good. I'm good at it, but I'm like, I'm not.
Right. And I might interject. It's like, it wasn't fulfilling. And when you're not fulfilled, you're not feeling that joy.
No, you're not.
And I love how you're that part of you, that maybe the entrepreneur or whatever spirit, that free spirit inside of you that just said, there's got to be more.
There's so much more. And I found more. It was an odd transition. It was kind of something that happened that was a troublesome situation. But in 2014, I was sitting in, it was April 15, 2014, almost 2 years. I don't know, when we get to April, it would be 2 years. And I was in a bedroom or a hospital room, with my mom, my dad, my grandma, and we were there as my mom took her last breaths. Mm. And it was this feeling where she finally lost her battle with MS for 17 years. And she was physically unable to live her life fully. Mm-hmm. She couldn't talk or walk or move. And it was like this thing where I sat back for a moment, started thinking about, like, because I think in moments like that, you start questioning, like, what are we here for? Mm-hmm. She's here to do that. Like, what's her legacy? Like, you know, there's just so much that is. For me, I look at people, I look at myself, and I say, if I'm living on this planet, I can walk, talk, live, breathe, like all the things that she gave me in terms of the abilities to be this person and unconditionally love me. There's something more I'm supposed to do than be in a gym teaching somebody to lose 15 pounds or run faster under 40. And it was just really this pivotal time I started thinking, like, numerically, if I put in numbers and like logistics, 75% of inmates are foster youth. 2% ever graduate college, but I graduated college with my bachelor's in kinesiology. Businesses, I think 95% of them fail in 5 years, but I made it past that. And then I was in the NFL, which is a small percentage of human beings get to do that. So statistically, I'm like an anomaly. Like, I really don't
you don't fit.
say that I exist. You know, like, it's like that number. No, that doesn't exist as a number. It'd be too small.
Right.
But the reason is because of how she unconditionally loved me. When I was a kid, she just poured into me. Like, when I was trying to be bad, so she would give me back to my real mom, like, you know, because I'm a kid, you don't know any better.
Right.
It's kind of this thing where she just loved me through it. And then I got to this point where I watched her pass, and I was like, you know what, there's more than just this. There's more. And so a couple months later, I happened upon this information by a guy named Brendon Burchard, who's in the space of experts, right? And went to his event, and it literally changed my whole view of life. I didn't know that world existed. I didn't realize that there's a story within me that I can share. Mm-hmm. So I closed my gym a few months later and ventured into the space where I realized that for me, my mom impacted me to do whatever it is I do. I have these amazing gifts as a human to give and to do, and even just a heart to share and have compassion and empathy. I need to share that. And the way that I share that, I impact people who will impact their world. Whether it's a person who's a business owner, which primarily is who I work with because they impact their world immensely, but it could be a mom, it could be a dad, it could be a coach, it could be a teacher. Like, these people, we all have these jobs, and we don't realize, like, we are someone to someone in every walk of life. And so I just want to impact those people, to impact the world, and that's how I can push on my legacy, my mom's legacy.
Right. So, and then you are your mom's legacy. And I'm sure you gave her tremendous joy. And so what do you find joyful about the work that you're doing now? Because work is a big part of our lives.
Yeah, huge part.
A huge part of our lives. And we get self-esteem from that. We have, of course, our resources to live. But those things are like the things that come with work.
Yeah.
But what gives you joy about the work that you do now? How do you find joy in what you're doing? Because I'm sure you had joy to some extent in your gym and then in the NFL and all that. No, it was also a lot of hard work. Don't get me wrong. But just because there's hard work doesn't mean, like as you said, trust your hustle. You've got to work. There's no doubt about it. But when there's joy. Yeah. The work, it makes it doesn't feel like work then.
I don't work.
Exactly. Like I don't do, like when it's not about homework, it's about home play. So how do you bring that sense of playfulness and joy into the work you're doing now?
Well, there's a couple of ways for me personally. One is I get to the point where I don't balance life. I think everybody talks about you got to balance life. Like, where do you balance? And my perspective is there's never balance. It's just what effort do you give? And so a lot of people are trying to give, like I give full effort to what I give full effort to, whatever, but it's a choice of what I choose to have in my life to then have to give full effort to. And so for me, I don't want to say I'm going to give 100% effort here, half effort here, quarter effort here. Like, no, I'm going to give everything 100% effort. If I don't want to give this thing 100% effort, that thing goes.
Right. That's
it, right? So first I cut things out that don't fit. And then two, I realize that what gives me the feeling of joy and fulfillment, it's from the giving. But I don't think a lot of people answer it this way. I'm a selfish person, right?
This is great because you have to be selfish.
You have to be selfish. And there's a reason that I'm selfish. And here's how I'm selfish. I love the thank yous. I love the gratitude I get. I love the people send messages and send me packages and say, thank you so much. Like, what you did changed my life. Like, I've had people send me messages like I was going to take my life until I watched this video, a 90-second video, right? That is why I do it. Now, in order for me to get that, in order for me to selfishly do it for that appreciation, because for me it's more because I didn't grow up feeling like I mattered. Like I didn't matter to anybody as a kid. Like for my mom, these foster kids, didn't matter. So for me, it's like I want to matter as a human, and in order to genuinely get that back, I have to give that fully. So I give that in the work that I do. And so I give whatever I can give 100%, and I've found things that I can give 150% to. And know that when I give that, I'm getting what I want, selfishly, if you want to call it that, out of that. But I can't genuinely get it unless I fully give of myself. So it benefits both parties.
Right. And so there is that exchange, though, of you're giving fully and then people receive it and they are just so grateful and appreciative of all, because they've recognized how much you've given.
Yes, exactly. And this happens outside of business, it happens in relationships. It happens
absolutely everywhere. It doesn't really matter because it carries over into every area of life.
Everything.
And you can just feel the joy that you have the joy in giving. And I think that's one of the really important things to remember is that when we give of ourselves, when we give of our gifts and talents, like you just give and give them fully, not necessarily expecting the appreciation or the pats in the back or, the testimonials or whatever. You're not doing it for that.
Not at all.
No, you're just doing it because you love to give.
Yeah. No, I do like the pats. Don't get me wrong. I think the pats are a heavy part of why I do it. But I think a lot of people, they want to think that altruism exists, like that I give fully and get nothing in return, right? And I've owned the fact that I do appreciate what I get in return to the extent of that's why I'm doing it. If not, it's like, are you going to wash your car if it's still going to stay dirty?
No.
Not, right? You want the return, even though it's just the car's clean, But for me, I've owned that. I think that's an honesty that I'm able to provide the world and say, look, I'm doing this because I want to help you, but I want to help you because I want you to appreciate me. And it's not that I'm reliant upon that. I am smart about not giving things out and then taking negative in to affect me also, because I only take the good back. Like, I don't know if it's good or bad. I take the criticism in a certain way.
Well, that's awesome. And I think it's a really important point is that you take the good back and you don't, you might reflect or look at what that negative point was to maybe improve yourself. Like you might have football to improve your game. A coach says, hey, blah, blah, blah. And, you want to just, strengthen your game, but but you don't take it on. And I think what I'm hearing is you don't take on that negative energy and allow it to bring you down.
No, because I know that when I live in that place, I can't continue to give because I'm going to be trying to. You can only put your focus in one place, and I say where focus goes, energy flows. I live, but I love that quote.
Yeah, me too.
So if my focus goes to the people who don't appreciate or like who just want to they want to come at me negatively, because also I realize this: incredibly happy people, they don't down talk or make other people feel bad, right? So whenever somebody approaches me in a negative manner, is like really abrasive, I don't immediately like fire back or get angry. I think in my head, like, man, where's this person at? Do they need my help? And with that, it allows me to comprehend that if I just take that in negatively and respond negatively, my energy goes away from trying to help people and now trying to deal with this negative situation. And I can't be in both places. So I want to be here. So I'm like, you know what? I understand that. I'm not going to spend any more time here. I'm going to go back over here.
Right, right. Well, what I'm hearing is that instead of like going back, like getting back with that what energy that person is giving to you, you go into your heart, and you may not say it this way, but you go into your heart and you feel a sense of compassion because you're wondering what caused that for that person. Why are they coming on to me that way?
Yeah.
And you know, and like you're wise enough to know I don't have to go there. I don't have to choose to go there.
Doesn't help anybody at all. It helps nobody. And at the end of the day, not everybody's going to like you. It's just an act of life. Not everybody's going to like who you are, what you do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Anthony, tell me this: what do you do to stay positive? What do you do? Because, like, you know, we were talking about, you know, there when we were with the football field that you know, they could throw in a sneak play or a tricky play or you know, whatever kinds of things, like, or we might say in baseball, a curveball comes down, you know, comes through our lives. What do you do when those curveballs come your way, just so you stay up and positive?
So I apply what I call the 95-5. So
I can't wait to hear this.
So 95-5 is this. And I've been a culprit of this myself. Something bad happens. The first thing you do is you start to just sit with it. It starts to stew in it. Like your brain goes there, and all you can do is just sit and deal with this mentally, and you make no progress. So what happens is you're in this position. You don't like being in this position, but now what you're doing is you're spending time thinking about the position, which keeps you in that position.
Yep.
So what I say is, all right, I don't like how this feels. I don't like this situation. I don't like what's going on. I don't forget about it. So I said 5%. So 95% of our time is typically spent thinking about the situation. Other 5% working on getting out of it. I don't like this. And I'll sit at my house. I'll complain about it all day. So I say, all right, if I don't want to be here anymore, what do I have to do? Well, I have to take action to move out of it. Period. The longer it takes me to take action, the longer I stay there. So I flip that 95-5 around. So I spend now 95% of the time working on getting out of it and only 5% of the time thinking about it. And what happens is not only does my energy go to a better positive place, but I spend less time in that place and I get out of it quicker. Now, am I always happy every moment of the day? No, I'm human. I'm human. But I'll sit there and I'll check myself. If I start feeling a certain way, like, this doesn't feel right, as opposed to continuing to think about it, I just shift and start working my way out of it.
Oh, I love that.
The action that actually leads to the emotion of feeling better or feeling happy, and it starts to get you farther and farther away from that place you don't want to be in the first place.
And that's a really key thing, is to point out the piece about the action. You know, yes, you absolutely do feel that you know, pain or that annoyance or that anger or frustration or whatever. It's not that you don't, you know, like bury it under the sand. You definitely feel it, but what you're saying is you only get that 5% of your attention.
Yeah.
And then you flip it as soon as you like, it sounds, become aware of it and say, okay, what action can I take? And I think that's a really key point for their viewers, because so often we get stuck in kind of like a whirlpool or a toilet bowl. We just go around and around and around and around, right?
Yeah.
You don't get anywhere. And that's putting our 95% of our energy going around in circles, and that doesn't help anybody.
Not at all. It just sucks.
Yeah, and so so you're saying is flip that put that into 5%. So it's going to be there, but that 5% is going to diminish very quickly, especially once you start taking action. So, that's awesome. Awesome. It's a really good point, because and the thing is, when we have action, then we're using our choice. We're taking responsibility. We're in our power.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. You actually get back to a place of power. That's why the emotion changes, the feeling changes. Yeah,
and that's real. That is so powerful. So how do you? And I love that you admitted that, you know, we're not human. We are human, I should say, and that we aren't happy, you know, 100% of the time.
No.
And so life happens, things something happens. So what do you do with the little things? Like just the little annoyances. Oh, I don't know. Your kids do something or somebody you tell them to pick up this and they don't listen. So it's not a huge thing.
Uh-huh.
It's not like they're failing in school or something. It's just what do you do for the minor annoyances?
So I look at perspective, a lot. I mean, the minor annoyances are part of it. One, a lot of it's saying, I apologize because I don't handle it perfectly every time. The other side of it is realizing that these are natural orders of life. We all deal with these things. And what happens, one, I don't beat myself up too much. But then two, I'm always in perspective of what it could be, how bad it could be. And that's like, I literally look at my own life and I'm like, okay, where else could I be right now? I could be in prison. I could be dead. I could be on drugs. I could be a lot of different places. And so I'm like, you know what? This issue, I call it this first world problem, is not so bad. It's not the end of the world. If someone messes my coffee order up, or someone messes my my food up, or it's okay. Like at least I can buy food, right? At least I can be safe. But I think we get to these points of it has to be life up here. This is our expectation. If it doesn't meet this every time, the world's falling apart. That's not the case, and I think that the way that we filter our world is how we experience and feel our world. So when you filter everything to that filter of like entitlement or negativity, you really are feeling that every moment of the day. So you are the cause of how you feel. That's it. So if I'm in a situation and I go to a restaurant and they mess my order up, I can be pissed and I'm hungry, I'm still right. I can do that. But then what happens is now I feel that energy. As opposed to, you know what, this person, maybe they had a bad day. Maybe somebody just dropped the ball accidentally. I've made mistakes before, right? I get a perspective and I'm like, all right, I'm sitting in a restaurant. I have not a care in the world. It's okay if my food comes 5 minutes later. It's going to be all right. And I'm like, don't worry about it. And what you do find is when you can do that, most people who are in your position don't handle it that way. So the rest of the world, it's abnormal to them. And what they do is they show gratitude themselves. So they comp meals or they'll give you more. And I don't do it for that, but that's the end result of being good, like giving to the world. That's a giving. You may not realize it, but that is giving. That is
a giving. That is a giving. And I love how you said it's one of the gifts in a way of the very difficult challenges you have had as a child, that you're able to put things into perspective so well. You immediately shift to that. Like, look what I have. Like, I'm here at a restaurant having dinner. So it's a few minutes late. That's okay. It's like, it's not life or death. It's like not everything is just so up there. So you're able to have that perspective about it. And I know you're absolutely right that when we respond in a way that we're giving and caring and compassionate to whatever happens in our life, we're like, oh, okay, I'm sorry, sir, I'm sorry your meal is later. Oh, I'm sorry that we brought you the wrong blah blah blah, and they take it back, but you're not angry and furious about it. Yeah, the service that they're going to give, it's a natural human thing. They're going to want to try and please you, and you're right, it happens. So our response to these negative things or these little inconveniences, let's say, really make a difference on how we're treated, and also how our energy, that you're able to stay in a positive place even though something like that happens.
Yeah, pretty much.
And that's awesome, because many people, if they can shift right out of that for something, we talk about the last straw, the camel, and whatever. But the more, so it sounds to me, Anthony, like you don't just let things pass and let them build up. Are you in the habit of dealing with things as they come?
Oh yeah, I love hard conversations. It's pretty much what that boils down to. I think our world's got really, really PC, what you can't say and you can say, and people don't have thick skin anymore. And so I'm very keen on how I address situations, but I address situations that are necessary. And more so because I realize if I don't address a situation with you, I'm hurting you and me.
Right.
Because, for example, someone's giving me they told me something about how someone's trying to sell them this design for a PDF, right? This document, and they got the PDF, and this kind of sucks, but they didn't tell the person. They're like, I'm going to continue working with somebody else. They just kind of did that. Well, now what happens is the person who you didn't tell you didn't like their issue or whatever, it's like this PDF, right? They're going to continue to keep putting that out into the world at that level and that quality. So they don't get a chance to get better. So you hurt that person because they can't get better now. And on the flip side, you hurt yourself because you now have seceded somewhere And I feel like in doing that, you don't allow the world to provide back to you the opportunity for someone to also do it to you. It's pretty much it. So, and also you didn't get a better PDF because if you had told the person, maybe they could have fixed it. You know, it could have been better than whatever one you made. So my thing is, when situations arise, I'm not a passive human. Like I have some areas where I'm like, you know what, I pick my battles wisely. I'm not a guy that wants to just, I pick the battle, but I have no problem saying, you know what, I don't like this very much. And I can say it in a sense of I'm not trying to demean you or make you feel bad, but you need to know my thought. And that is, I think that's care. It's care to give to somebody, to care enough to get myself uncomfortable, to give you information that'll benefit your life to help you be better as your days continue on.
Right. But again, it comes back to your sharing with our viewers how you stay positive. Oh, yeah, for those few seconds, you may have to go into that more difficult place, but it helps you. But you're instead of like pushing or not addressing the negativity, it doesn't go away. And you're actually, what you said, I love that, is that you're actually you're doing that person a disfavor because you're not helping them to improve or letting them see that, hey, you could do this another way. So it kind of like leaves it like energy basically just hanging out somewhere where it's not complete.
Yeah.
And so it just gets all tangled, where when you actually address it, then you can bring it back to that positive place, not only for you, but for all the other people involved.
Mm-hmm. True.
And that's really, it's like we get basically that's where we come back to trust your hustle in that all of these, whether it's a relationship, whether interpersonal, or it's a work relationship or friendships or with our children or anything in work, it's like, because everything's relationships that they take work.
Yeah.
They do take work. You got to trust your hustle. You got to work at it a little bit, and so that you can have ultimately that positive lifestyle that you want.
Yeah, it all takes. You can't have anything of greatness without some kind of work, and it's not always physical work. Sometimes emotional work, mental work. You cannot get to a place of happy without earning it. Period.
Right. It does. It's inside of us, and it's there for us. But we get to choose it. But it takes effort to maintain it or to bring it back to that place of happiness and joy.
Yeah, definitely.
And, it really takes effort. You can't just assume it's going to be there, because not only does life happen, but there are just those ups and downs of life that, we're always making choices. And so we get to choose ones that bring us back to what we want.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Every time.
Oh, I love your perspective on all of this, because it just really, it's practical, it's matter of fact, it's clear, and you're really stepping out there saying, hey, you got to deal with this stuff. Every
day.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and also that it's choices.
Yeah. We all have choices. I think we sometimes people feel like they're powerless or they're not in control, but the truth of the matter is you are always in control. As much as you want to say the outside world does things or affects you, and people hate hearing it because it is cliche, but you're in control of your responses and reactions. Mm-hmm. The thing is, your responses and your reactions, they literally determine the value of the next moments of your life.
Definitely. Absolutely.
You choose to realize that how I respond to this right now, whether it sucks and it's horrible, how you respond will make the next moment good or bad based on how you respond. So you are in control of that.
Yes, and that's a really important piece to share. So, Anthony, I know that you have like a free gift or something for all of our viewers. So I'd love it if you'd share more about that. Yeah,
so I work primarily with like entrepreneurs and business owners, but it actually could apply to everybody's life, which is cool. It's something I call the entrepreneur's tripod, and it's essentially a structure where we look. Most people are their business coach, or I say an entrepreneur coach. That's the person, right? The business coach could be the business, but I like the person. And I address it like this. There are three areas that we all kind of have within us. It's the tools, the techniques, and the technician. Most people think you need a tool and a technique. So if I say, here's a hammer, but I don't tell you how to use it, you can't hammer the nail, you can't do the job. If I say, here's how to use a hammer, but I don't give you the hammer, the tool, again, you can't hammer the nail, can't do the job. Most people's assumption is, give me the hammer, teach me how to use it, I can hammer the nail and get the job done. But if you give that hammer to like a newborn baby, they can't control the hammer, right? The technician isn't very sound. So the entrepreneur's tripod structures in for people a clarity of what tools are, what techniques are, and what the technician needs to develop to be able to get themselves forward. And I look at it kind of like a tripod holds up like the camera, right? The C.
Mhm.
But
Sure.
the C that it holds up is not C for camera, it's C for community. And the community it's you uphold like the people that are surrounding you, which is your friend, your family, like your community of people. But also in the world of entrepreneurship, the people you work with, you're upholding like the community you develop, you create based around your message, your idea, your version, like your vision, your brand. And everybody has their own brand. Like whether you have a job, you have your own brand because who you are is who you are.
Right.
And so when those three are in place, you can uphold the rest of the world around you, which is the community. The other C, the tripod holds up that C, if that makes sense.
Oh, awesome. I love that. And I like how you explain the three pieces too, because you're absolutely right. If you can't you have to have all of them.
All of them.
You know, it doesn't work if you
Yeah.
don't have all three pieces. And so those are the elements that it brings to a reminder. Plus the other piece is anybody can use it.
Anybody.
And I mean, you could look at it like, you know, with the relationship, or you can use it with your children, or you know, getting a new job, anything. It would fit because it helps us to, I'm assuming it would help people to really get clear on what they need and what their values are and what their emotions are by
Yeah.
using this tool, so that, again, that's going to feed right into their joy and their happiness.
Always does. It's the backside of actions that create new feelings. Because what people don't realize is like feelings like happiness, and we talk about joy and all this, like this, you know, abundance. It's all an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And emotions. I did a lot of informational like research on emotions to find like what are they, how do they work, and what it all boils down to. If I was to synthesize it down, it boils down to the backside of actions. It's what happens after you do something or somebody does something to you. So if I come and hit you, like the emotion is not love. If the emotion is anger or fear, or, you know, just I don't know if you want to call it like loathing somebody, right?
Sure.
From the backside of like a positive, like a shaking of a hand, a hug, like a positive word, affirmations, that leads into a positive, happy emotion, which is an emotion, right? So it's actions, but we always think about the outside external actions, not the internal actions of the work that I do that develops a feeling of confidence, the feeling of happiness, or the feeling of trust in our ability, which happens from the actions that we take. And so a lot of it is being clear on the actions you must take that lead to the results you want.
Right. And that's a key piece. I'm going to repeat that. Is clear about the actions that you take so you get the experience that you want.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you, Anthony. It's been a pleasure, a delight to have you on the Joyful You Summit, and to just hear your perspective and just wisdom that you have to share with everyone. So thank you. Best of luck to you. And thank you, everyone. We'll be on the Joyful You Summit again. So please join us. Namaste.